It was a cold November night. I was driving back home after spending the evening at a friend's place. We'd been playing video games, talking and laughing, but time flew by faster than I realized. By the time I checked the clock, it was already 2:30 in the morning. The road I usually take home is a long rural highway, mostly empty and surrounded by tall trees and abandoned fields. I'd driven it many times before, but something about this night felt different. The air was heavy, almost suffocating, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching me from the shadows. The radio was off. All I could hear was the low hum of the engine and the tires rolling across the cracked, uneven asphalt. No cars in sight, no lights from nearby houses, not even the distant bark of a dog. The world felt asleep, except for me. After about 15 minutes of driving, my heart skipped a beat. I slammed the brakes. There was someone standing on the side of the road. He was right under a flickering streetlight, but the dim glow wasn't enough to reveal his features clearly. He wore an old, outdated jacket, something straight out of the 1950s or 60s, and dark trousers. His hands were clasped together in front of him, motionless. He didn't move an inch. He looked less like a person and more like a statue. As I rolled closer, dread filled my chest. A storm of thoughts hit me at once. Maybe he needs help. Maybe he's lost. Maybe he had an accident and he's waiting for someone to stop. But what unsettled me most was that he hadn't flagged me down. He didn't wave, didn't step forward, didn't react at all. He just stood there. I hesitated. Do I stop? Or do I drive on and pretend I never saw him? Curiosity won. I slowed the car, pulled to the side, and rolled down the window. My voice came out shakier than I expected. "Hey, you all right? Do you need a ride?" The man turned his head toward me, slowly, too slowly, and the instant his face came into view, I froze in place. His eyes, I'd never seen eyes like that before. They were wide and pale, a dull gray like frozen ice, lifeless and hollow. They weren't the eyes of a living man. A faint smile spread across his lips, and in a voice so quiet I had to strain to hear, he said, "The road is long, and the night is colder than you think." A shiver shot down my spine. His tone wasn't normal. It was flat, cold, and unnatural, like it wasn't meant for human ears. I wanted to drive away. I wanted to escape. But against my own better judgment, words slipped out of my mouth before I could stop them. I offered him a ride. The passenger door creaked open. He slid inside without a word. The moment he sat down, a heavy odor filled the car. It smelled of dust, of dirt, of something old, like an abandoned basement that hadn't been opened in decades. I forced myself to ask, "So, where are you headed?" He didn't look at me. He kept staring straight ahead, face locked, silent. A full minute passed before he finally spoke. "Home. Nearby." I kept driving, but every second with him inside the car felt stretched into hours. My palms were sweating against the steering wheel. I kept sneaking glances at him from the corner of my eye. His skin was ghostly pale, his features faded, almost washed out like an old photograph. His hands rested on his lap, frail and unnaturally white, with deep wrinkles like they'd aged 100 years. The atmosphere inside the car grew heavier, colder. My breaths were loud, shaky, echoing in the silence. My heart pounded as though my body knew something my mind refused to admit. Here. I wasn't alone with a man. I was trapped with something else. Then, out of nowhere, his voice broke the silence. "Here. Let me out here." I glanced around in confusion. The road was empty. Nothing but trees and the endless black forest on both sides. No houses, no farms, no signs of life. "Are you sure?" "There's nothing out here," I stammered. He turned his head toward me and smiled wider this time. His teeth were yellowed, aged, unnatural. "It's close, very close." A wave of dread swept over me, but I stopped the car. He opened the door, stepped out, and began walking toward the woods. Slow, deliberate steps, never looking back. And then, he vanished between the trees. Almost instantly, the air grew colder. Much colder. Like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees in an instant. My entire body was trembling, not from the weather, but from the raw fear clawing at me from the inside. I slammed the gas pedal and sped away. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. My head was pounding, my hands were shaking, and the image of his face, his lifeless eyes, his strange smile, burned itself into my brain. I locked every door, shut every window, and collapsed into bed, praying sleep would take me quickly. But sleep never came. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him sitting in the passenger seat again, his empty eyes staring at nothing, that crooked, knowing smile. Around 5 a.m., just as I finally started to drift, a sound jolted me awake. Knocking. 3 slow, heavy knocks. At my front door. My heart slammed in my chest. I forced myself up, legs weak, and crept toward the door. Each step felt like it echoed through the whole house. I pressed my eye to the peephole. No one. I hesitated, then carefully unlocked the door and opened it just a crack. The street was dead quiet. And then I froze. Across the street, standing perfectly still under the dim light of a lamppost, was the man. The same jacket, the same lifeless eyes, the same smile. He wasn't knocking anymore. He wasn't moving at all. He was just watching me. I slammed the door shut, heart hammering in my chest, when I dared to look through the peephole again. He was gone. I didn't sleep that night. No matter how many times I turned over, no matter how tightly I shut my eyes, every sound in the house made me jump. The refrigerator humming, the creak of the wooden floor, even the wind brushing against the windows. It all felt amplified. But nothing terrified me more than the thought of him still standing out there, waiting. By the time morning came, my body was heavy with exhaustion. The sunlight spilling through the blinds felt like a blessing, and for a moment, I tried convincing myself that what happened last night wasn't real. Maybe I was just overtired. Maybe I imagined him. Maybe stress and darkness had played tricks on me. But then I noticed something. When I left the house to head to work, I saw footprints on the sidewalk across the street, right where I had seen him standing. They were clear in the damp morning dew. Large, deep footprints leading toward my house, but not away. I felt my stomach twist. I got into my car quickly, trying to shake off the chill crawling up my spine. Work, I thought. Just focus on work. But even at the office, I couldn't escape the feeling that I wasn't alone. Every time I looked up from my desk, I half expected to see him through the glass door. Every reflection in the computer screen seemed to shift when I blinked, as though someone was standing behind me. My coworkers asked if I was okay. I looked pale, tired, distracted. I just shrugged it off. At lunch, I decided to step outside for some fresh air. The parking lot was quiet. That's when I saw him again. He was standing across the street behind a row of parked cars, just staring. The same old jacket, the same pale face. He didn't move, didn't flinch when our eyes met. I blinked, and he was gone. I stumbled back inside, nearly dropping my coffee. My heart wouldn't calm down. How could he just disappear like that? That night, I tried everything. Keeping the lights on, locking every door twice, turning on the TV for background noise. But sleep still wouldn't come. I drifted in and out of shallow dreams, each one darker than the last. In one dream, I was driving again on that empty rural road. The man was in the passenger seat beside me, silent, his lifeless eyes fixed forward. I tried speaking, tried screaming, but no words came out. My throat was sealed shut. Suddenly, he turned toward me, that crooked smile spreading wider and wider until it didn't look human anymore. Then he whispered, his voice echoing in my skull. "The road is long, and you've only just begun." I woke up drenched in sweat, gasping for air. It was 3 a.m., the same hour I'd seen him the first night. My phone buzzed, startling me. It was a notification, motion detected by the security camera on my porch. With trembling hands, I opened the app. The video showed only the front steps. Empty. But as the clip neared the end, just before the feed cut off, I saw him, standing at the edge of the yard, half hidden in the shadows. Watching, I nearly dropped the phone. My chest tightened and I could barely breathe. By morning, I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. I needed answers. I drove out to the same stretch of road where I'd first picked him up. The day was overcast, the woods on either side looming like dark guardians. I parked the car and walked to the spot where I had stopped for him. The place felt colder, heavier, like the very air remembered. A farmer passing by slowed his truck and called out to me. "You lost, son?" I shook my head. "No, I saw someone here a few nights ago. A man. Do you know if people walk this road often?" The farmer's expression darkened. He pulled his truck over and leaned closer. What did he look like? I hesitated, then described him. The old jacket, the pale skin, the lifeless eyes. The farmer's face drained of color. "You shouldn't have stopped for him." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He looked around nervously, then lowered his voice. "Around here, folks talk about him. Some call him the Hitchhiker, others call him the Lost Rider. He's been seen on this road for decades, always the same look, always the same story. People pick him up, then he vanishes, or worse, he follows them home." My blood ran cold. "So, it wasn't just me?" The farmer shook his head gravely. "Count yourself lucky. Some people never get rid of him." Before I could ask more, he drove off, leaving me in the chilling silence of the road. I returned to my car, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. My mind spun with questions. Who was he? What did he want from me? And why me? That night, things got worse. I was brushing my teeth, trying not to think about what the farmer said, when I noticed movement in the bathroom mirror. Behind me. I spun around. The bathroom was empty. But when I looked back at the mirror, he was there, standing right behind me. I screamed, dropping the toothbrush into the sink. But when I turned again, the reflection was gone. Just me. Alone. Or maybe not. From then on, he was everywhere. I saw him on the side of the road while driving, in reflections on dark windows, in the shadows of hallways. He appeared in my dreams every night, whispering the same haunting words. "The road is long." I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. My coworkers avoided me. My family asked what was wrong. But what could I tell them? That I was being followed by a man who wasn't really there? The paranoia consumed me. Every sound at night made me jump. Every shadow felt alive. And the more I tried to ignore him, the closer he seemed to get. One night, I woke to find him standing at the foot of my bed. My scream caught in my throat. He didn't move. He just stood there, smiling that same cold smile. His eyes glistened in the moonlight, empty and endless. I blinked and he was gone, but the sheets where he had stood were wet with dirt. The days that followed blurred together, a haze of fear and desperate resistance. I no longer distinguished between waking and dreaming. Shadows slithered at the edge of my sight regardless of the hour, and whispers followed me like parasites, gnawing at the fragile walls of my mind. Yet amid that relentless siege, something inside me refused to surrender. A stubborn ember, faint but unyielding, burned within. The entity, whatever it was, grew bolder. It no longer confined itself to the corners of my vision or the murmurs that plagued me at night. It stood before me now, in shapes grotesque and shifting, its form an ever-changing nightmare. Sometimes it appeared as a towering figure with hollow sockets where eyes should have been, sometimes as a mass of writhing limbs, each one reaching for me with desperate hunger. Every time, its voice was the same, cold, patient, promising my destruction. "You belong to me," it whispered one night as I sat in my room, hands clamped over my ears. The words were not spoken aloud. They bloomed inside my skull, vibrating through bone and blood. "You cannot escape. You are mine." I wanted to believe it was only madness, some fracture of my mind. But the bruises on my skin, the scratches across my arms that appeared while I slept proved otherwise. Reality itself was bending under its weight. In desperation, I returned to the diary I had found in the basement, the diary of the house's previous occupant, whose words I had once dismissed as the ranting of a broken soul. Now, I saw them as warnings, as guidance carved by another victim. It feeds on fear, the final entry had said. But fear can be sharpened into defiance. When it whispers, do not cower. When it rises, stand taller. Its power is borrowed from your terror. Strip that away and it crumbles. The words became my anchor. I memorized them, repeated them under my breath whenever the entity stirred, clinging to them as one clings to prayer. The storm reached its peak one night when the air itself seemed to warp, walls trembling, the ceiling groaning as if under some immense, invisible pressure. The house was no longer just a house. It was a throat, a chamber designed to swallow me whole. Every light bulb shattered in unison, plunging me into suffocating darkness. And then it came. It did not lurk in corners or loom at the edge of vision. It filled the room, vast and hideous, blotting out every trace of familiar space. Its body was a storm of shapes, a skull that melted into a beast's jaw, claws dripping with shadows, eyes that flickered like dying stars. The sound of it was unbearable, a chorus of screams woven into a single, monstrous breath. "You will kneel," it thundered, voice vibrating through marrow and stone. "You will be nothing." For a moment I faltered. My knees buckled under its weight, breath caught in my throat. I thought of surrender, how easy it would be to collapse into the abyss it offered, to give up, to let it take me. But then I remembered the diary. I remembered the ember that refused to die. I forced myself upright, though my body trembled like glass about to shatter. "No," I whispered. My voice was small, pathetic even, but it was mine. The creature shrieked, a sound that clawed at my skull. Its mass swelled, pressing closer, trying to smother me in despair. I shouted then, louder than I thought I could. "You have no power unless I give it to you." The words cut through the dark like a blade. For the first time, the entity recoiled. Its form wavered, its edges flickering as though it were nothing more than smoke caught in the wind. Fueled by sudden courage, I stepped forward. "You are nothing but a shadow," I declared. "You are fear given shape, and I am done feeding you." Every step I took seemed to weaken it. The closer I came, the more it twisted, contorting into smaller, shriller forms, like a predator shrinking back from prey it could not comprehend. Its voices multiplied, thousands of whispers overlapping, pleading now instead of commanding. "Stop. Do not resist. You cannot unmake me." But I did not stop. I pressed my palm to its surface, expecting cold, expecting pain. Instead, I felt nothing. Only emptiness, hollow and weightless, like pressing against mist. And then, light. Not from outside, not from any lamp or fire, but from within me. The ember that had burned for so long flared into a blaze, a radiant defiance that surged outward, flooding the room. It was not the brilliance of salvation or divinity. It was the raw, furious refusal of a soul unwilling to be consumed. The entity screamed, its body unraveling, shredded by the force of that light. Tendrils snapped, faces melted into black vapor, its colossal form collapsing inward as though pulled into an unseen void. The sound rattled the windows, split the air, until finally, silence. I stood alone in the ruins of my room, chest heaving, every muscle trembling with exhaustion. The shadows had receded. The whispers were gone. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I could breathe. But victory was not without its scars. My reflection in the cracked mirror showed a face I barely recognized, pale, hollow-eyed, marked by sleepless nights and unseen battles. Yet in those eyes, I saw something new as well. Strength. A quiet, hard-earned strength that no phantom could ever take away. The house remained silent afterward. No more whispers, no more shifting shadows. The air was still, heavy with the residue of what had transpired. I left the diary on the desk, its pages now seeming less like warnings and more like a testament, proof that survival was possible. As I stepped outside into the cold night air, stars blinking faintly above, I realized the truth. I had not destroyed the entity. Not entirely. Perhaps it lingered somewhere, waiting. But I had broken its hold over me. I had proven that fear could be conquered, that darkness could be defied. and that was enough.